This video is going to be on polynomials. So what is a polynomial? A polynomial is a math expression that has variables, though sometimes the variables aren't as obvious as you might think. So what are some examples? X squared plus 3x minus 1 is a polynomial. Another polynomial is 2x minus 3. Another polynomial is 3x cubed minus 7x squared plus x minus 5. So all three of these are examples of polynomials. Another definition we have to know is terms. A term is a group of numbers or variables that make up a polynomial. And they're usually separated by addition and subtraction signs. Let's look at an example. 3x minus 7. So this is a polynomial. The whole thing is called a polynomial. But the polynomial is actually made up of a number of different terms. So again, terms are groups of numbers or variables that make up a polynomial. Well, here is one group, and that is a term. There's actually a second term in this polynomial, the -7. That is also a term. So the terms in this case are 3x and -7. So that negative, that subtraction sign will always go with the number that follows it. Now, how many terms are there? The number of terms is 2. There are 2 of them. Let's look at another example. So we could have -2x squared plus 3x plus 5. So this entire thing is called a polynomial. But again, the polynomial is made up of different terms. You want to look for subtraction or addition signs that'll kind of break it up. And we can kind of see there's one group of stuff over here. So this is a term. Then there's that kind of 3x in the middle. That's another group, another term. And then we have this at the very end, another term. Again, notice how the addition signs are kind of breaking it up. So we have one group, another group, and a third group. Now, what are the terms in this case? The terms are -2x squared, 3x, and 5. And the number of terms well, I count 3, so there are 3 terms. Now, some polynomials have special names. The first example are called monomials. Monomials have only one term. And some examples are negative 3x squared. This is one big group of numbers and variables. That's one term. It's a monomial. Well, it has only one term. Another group is called binomial. Binomials are polynomials that have two terms. So for example, 2x minus 7. This is a polynomial. It has one term here and another term here. Two terms, binomial. Then we have polynomials that have three terms, and we call these trinomials. Think of a tricycle, 3 wheels. In this case, 3 terms. An example of a trinomial is 3x squared plus 4x minus 10. Again, one term, two terms, three terms. Remember that subtraction goes with the 10. So the third term is negative 10, not positive 10, negative 10. Now, if we have a polynomial that's 4 or more terms, we usually just call it a polynomial. It doesn't really get a special name. Now we're going to go over the parts of a polynomial. Different parts have different names. So our example is going to be 3x squared plus 7. So this is a polynomial. It's a binomial. It has two different terms. And we have to know some of the names. So the number that's in front of a variable is called the coefficient. Okay, so 3 in this case, it's in front of the x. We call that the coefficient. The x, I already mentioned, like any letter, is the variable. The 2 in this case is called the exponent. And the 7, because it doesn't have a variable behind it, we call it the constant. All right, so here we actually have a table. I've given you 4 different expressions, and we're just trying to see if we can fill out some information about them. So our first expression that I want you to look at is 3w. We want to know what is the coefficient. Again, that's the number in front, and in this case, it would be 3. What is the variable in this case? It isn't x, it's actually w. So again, a variable doesn't have to be x, it can be any letter. And what is the exponent? And when I say exponent, I'm talking about what is the exponent on the variable. In this case, the exponent is actually 1. So this is something you might forget from time to time. There's actually an invisible 1 with this w. Anytime you see a letter without an exponent, there's actually an invisible 1. Let's look at a to the power of 2. What is the coefficient? What is the number in front? Well, whenever you see a letter by itself, it actually has an invisible 1 in front. So the coefficient is 1. In math, whenever there's a 1, we often don't like to write it because we just assume there's a 1 there. What's the variable? A. And the exponent on the variable is a 2. Let's look at the next one. What is the coefficient in this case? It is negative 4. Don't forget about that negative. You can't just put positive 4. what is the variable? In this case, we actually have two. We have x and we have y. And what is the exponent? We have an invisible 1 and an invisible 1. Don't get caught by that. So we have an invisible 1 for the x and an invisible 1 for the y. This last one, negative g, what is the coefficient? Remember, there's an invisible 1 there, so it's actually negative 1. The variable is g, and the exponent, the invisible 1, right? Right up here, there's an invisible 1.